Hello, everybody. So glad to be together today. And uh, Zion, the producer, is sitting sort of close to me, but we both have this window over here, and they just cut the grass outside the window. We're both like, we're smelling fresh cut grass. So we're going like, don't sneeze. If you can sneeze, but I can't sneeze. So anyway, so good to be here. And hi, Jeremiah. So I see you're coming on, and we're going to talk today about the end is not yet, but give me a few minutes to kind of get us rolling here and get a few people on and get people situated to know we're already on this beautiful day in Kansas City. So I had and I had a guy the other day or mentioned me. We were talking about miracles. He wasn't sure if he believed in miracles, and I said, "How can you say that? The Royals are now above 500. Now they're 7-4. They've lost four and won seven, won five in a row. Yeah, so we may have to go before too long and get in on that. But it said you believe in miracles, but that is they're doing good there right now. Five in a row's big, but on other years they ended up in last place, and they had a couple of times they won 10 in a row and still ended up in last place. So, but that's the way it goes. So, anyway, I'm just having a little fun with that. Plus, when we've talked about the eclipse, and we'll be talking about it a little bit today about the end times, that the end is not yet. But I was glad that I could make a few jokes because a lot of people were really intense about it, and maybe some people scared. And it's just is the world going to end, or what's this mean, and all that kind of stuff. So I was trying to make light of it instead because, like I said, I've been through this before. Yeah, Lee. That's right. Lee said, yes, the Royals are a modern day miracle. That's right. But if you like baseball, though, you just like watching it, even if they lose. I used to pitch, and so you knew that, didn't you? But it was hardball. I never could play softball, and you know what? I'm terrible at slow pitch. I don't know why. Is that what you play? Yeah, it's because I've never done it. Yeah. So, but I was a pitcher, and so I like just watching pitching, and I will even react. I'll make a noise if it's or it's strike or terrible pitch, just like I threw it myself. And the bad thing about it is we deceive ourselves into thinking I could still do it. I think like, oh, if I can get out there for a couple of days and throw, I'd probably be, yeah, I know that's got to be, that can't be true. But anyway, I like the game when I was young. TV didn't carry as many games. I think you could watch the World Series on television when I was really young, but it was in black and white, I think. Well, maybe because we had a black and white TV. Maybe it was in color. But anyway, I got to do it. My dad listened to the ball game on the radio almost every night, and he would go upstairs to the bedroom and get a book. And this shows Zion, this shows me too a little bit my personality and my interests. So he would read a book on World War II because he was in World War II. He'd read some historical book on World War II and the St. Louis Cardinals on the radio. And so I would come up and sit on the floor and listen, and he'd be reading and just listen to the game. So my daughter Bobby and my wife, they all believe like partly the baseball thing is a nostalgia thing that makes me just feel good. Just hearing it on the radio makes me feel good. I don't care; it's not on TV. So it must be an association with childhood. It must be what it is. But anyway, um, so it is just a game, and it's not the kingdom of God. So we can have fun with it, but that's that. So I was just making a little fun about the Royals, but I hope they continue to win. Anyway, so here we are in this day and age, and I'm kind of stalling. I want some more people to come on. They've been slower recently, but that's okay. A lot of people listen to it later, and we'll catch it later. But anyway, so I said last week that we're going to have the eclipse and nothing's going to happen. Well, fortunately, I was right. I oh, hi, Anne Marie. I just now saw your name. And fortunately, I was right. I thought if I didn't want to say too much in church Sunday because it was a day away. I thought, well, they'll probably have an earthquake someplace, and then they'll say you were wrong. But on here last week, I just made some fun of it and a little bit in church. Um, because people were intense. It was intense for some people, just really nerve wracking. They were kind of worried what was going to happen. So it was great to have a one voice that said nothing when there were thousands. I was just amazed. Oh well, this is kind of cool. Like I was so amazed that Sunday and early Monday and all day Monday, all thousands of people on the internet were just. It was all the way from earthquake, return of Jesus. One big one was, which we might mention today, is the church is going to be lifted out, raptured out, and that was all big. And then I mentioned Zion. It's something interesting. So that was Monday. We had the eclipse Monday. Yesterday was Tuesday. There wasn't anything on the internet. All these people had nothing to say. Nobody said anything. Yeah, I'm telling you, I scrolled a lot, and I found a couple of old ones from Monday that were still posted, and a couple of people um, still had some couple of scriptures up or something. But from thousands to zero says something, right? So, so anyway, we life goes on, and we're going to talk about the end is not yet. I took a drink. Um, the end is not yet today. And that's important for people because to understand the end. And the end is not yet. By the way, here's something. Did you know that in our universe, our galaxy, and around the world, uh, there's even a total eclipse, but there's an eclipse every 2 to 5 times a week. Is that right? A week? I think so, but we don't see it, or it's that's over the ocean or something, or way out in space. So it was to make such a big deal over something that happens on a fairly regular basis, and plus earthquakes are happening all over the world. I don't know how many we have every week, not major ones, but we always got tremors. And a couple of times even in here in Missouri, I've felt just a slight tremor real fast and look it up, and there was something happening, but yeah, someplace. Hi, Darren. Glad to have you. As people are slowly coming in today, but that's okay. Um, but so we're talking about the end is not yet, and it was really tough on some people that don't have a Bible background, and then it was tough on people who do, but it's a it's a weak theology. I was sharing with Kathy last night. I said, God love everybody that's trying so hard, to be right and to say right, because there's just a lot of sincere people, but there is so much bad theology. And I'm fortunate that I started really digging in a few years before the Smith and outpouring, which had been clear back in the '90s, early. I started digging in, and I was going to seminary part time. Kathy went full time 2 summers. Hi, Vanita. And but Kathy went two complete semesters to try to finish up, and then when the revival hit, the Smith and outpouring hit, it knocked it out. You couldn't leave because you had church was 5 days a week for 3 years, and then she didn't go back, but she got a great education anyway. But I went. And I would go and do week long things with the Assemblies of God Seminary because it's not that far. We have friends there, good friends. I don't know if they've retired yet now or not, good friends. But it was really a God thing because I was fortunate enough to get a good mentor. If I didn't use that, just a teacher. Uh, and he was the head of the Assemblies of God Worldwide New Testament Studies. And he became my personal teacher. Then I contacted him a lot. He came to Smithton several times, and I took him to Israel with me. And I paid him. I paid his way and paid him money to go with me to Israel and be my personal teacher in Israel. And all of that was hi Ricky, and all of that, and Beth, all of that was before the outpouring. So God was setting me up for a different kind and an intense theology training. And then when it hit, people, I was able to preach all those sermons because I was fresh out then with all this great stuff that I learned. Um, that I learned over those few years before, and it changed my life. It changed my theology and it changed my preaching, which is some of you here and other places around the world. You've benefited from that theology too. And so his name was Ben Aker. And so I thank him even to this day. Even though he was Assembly of God top guy, he was a little bit of rogue, rogue. Had some rogue teacher too, because he did not follow everything that they said, and I appreciate him so much. And so anyway, uh, and so all these things came about where it changed my theology, and we need to get a good theology, and the end is not yet. And he's the one that taught me that too, by the way, how to understand the end, and the end is not yet. I do have a particular just opinion more than scriptural, but there are some scriptures to back it up. But just my opinion that uh, if you want to watch for the end, you don't watch the sun or the moon, but you can watch Israel. Now, it's true, nobody knows the time of the return of Jesus. Of course, we talked, which will be on our podcast next week. Pastor JD and I talked about the rapture. I'm so slow to talk about it in some ways because I would rather you believe in the rapture and still be my friend than mention, because people get so angry. Rapture people get so angry, and but I don't think it's a solid teaching. I used to teach it myself, and I was a good I had it down so well, but I never studied it. I taught it without studying it. I taught what I was taught, and then I went and particularly found out that in my opinion, it is slightly, if I can say more than that, maybe anti-Semitic. It's anti-Jews, because it was still, they were saying the Jews, Israel, because the Jews rejected Jesus, so Jews have to stay, and they are the big left behind people. Now everybody else is left behind too, but that doesn't believe in Jesus. But the whole thing, and that they could be saved during during the Great Tribulation, the Big Tribulation, but then they would all be killed. And you try to go and talk to Jewish people about the rapture, and you're going to be here because you don't believe in Jesus. But if you want to believe in Jesus, you better do it now, because if you do it then, you're all going to kill you. And it's, come on, it's a little bit of a Holocaust again. And so that's what triggered it in me. I said, no, sir. That cannot be complete. There has to be something more to this. And so I began to realize that the rapture came in the 30s, was it? Oh, we said yesterday 30s, 40s, 50s. Now I forgot. But it was a girl had a vision, and then these Bible publishers got a hold of it and made it into the doctrine it is today. And it took off from then till now. But early Christians, early scholars, early Bible folks of the first century who started those churches, there was zero evidence of any rapture, that God would take the church out of the world and leave the world to Satan, and then come back and do that after this terrible time. And so there's a lot of trouble understanding what they call the Great Tribulation. So I had a person tell me recently, said, "Hey, I think we're starting the Great Tribulation. We're starting the last 7 years of the earth now." And but if you follow that and you read and you really understand the book of Revelation, and this tribulation is the tribulation that John was talking about, was the tribulation that would hit Israel. So the book of Tribulation, Revelation, was written in a Jewish culture, Mideastern Jewish Christian, because there were Christians, culture. And so if you want to understand, instead of understanding the details of the book of Revelation, first think of it this way: try to read it literally first. Literally is not a good word, by the way. If people say Zion, people say it literally rained cats and dogs, which it can't literally do that, but they say stuff like that. Literally is a literature term. It's a literature term. Literally is how you describe literature. So you have to, but everybody says it. Yeah, it's a literature. Yeah. Yeah, it's a literature term, but everybody says it. But anyway, if you're going to read it, we'll use it now literally, then you have to be consistent literally to read it first. And that's what I would suggest. Read the book literally like you'd read any other book. Don't read into it. Don't move it up 2,000 more years. just read it and see what it says. And so it is my belief, and I'm bendable because I love everybody. Even you believe in the rapture and all that. And the way I know all about it. I know all the scriptures. Uh, that's okay with me. And I joked yesterday about it that there's a some days you wake up and you hear the news and you say, "Could we just rapture today?" Right? But it did not exist. The thought pattern did not exist. And understand a couple of things. So first of all, when you read the book of Revelation, read it literally, and then understand like this. Um, think of it as people do today as like a political cartoon. I saw a cartoon about politics the other day, and you know what? They were talking about politicians, and the politicians' heads were extra big, right? They had big heads, small hands, little feet, and then these bubble things where they said what they said. It was an exaggeration, but it was like you can look at a political any cartoon, but a political cartoon like that, and you realize those people don't have those big heads, right? No, but it tells you something. And the people of the first century understood the political and societal um, clues and exaggerations that were being used in the book of Revelation, but they understood them. And what's happened is then we've taken them out of their culture. And it would be like somebody 2,000 years from now reading a cartoon on our President Biden, trying to understand his immigration or his inflation or whatever 2,000 years from now. And you go, and they could have uh, decided and said, you know what, the day's coming when we're all going to have giant heads, so so do it like that, like a political cartoon, and read it first for their day. And there's exaggerations, there's clues, and there's things about it. Then as you read the book of Revelation, as people are trying to figure out the end, read it the way it really is. It's backwards. Okay, when we see the rider on the horse coming, that horse is coming, and that Savior is coming to earth. The book of Revelation is not about people going up or about the rapture. It's about Jesus coming down. And it's just backwards. And if you read it that way, that the end of the story is if he either comes down spiritually, not the final, because when he comes down, well, let me tell you something else wrong about the rapture is all secretive, right? Nobody knows. So be ready. And we always joked, I did spoofs on it in the Steve and Kathy show, hilarious stuff that only I probably would do, talking about, the people they get raptured up, but before they went, they had their clothes folded by the bed. And I always wondered uh, why they always went dressed when they were in bed. How come they didn't go in their underwear or something? But they didn't have any of that. And when I was in Ecuador, ministering in Ecuador a few times, they were having a lot of earthquakes. And so you'd really, Zion, you'd fold you'd have clothes laid out by the bed at night, because if the earthquake comes in, you have to leave the house. You want to leave dressed. So I guess that was what's behind the rapture. But anyway, think of it differently as John speaking of what is that so many generations, all generations will have an antichrist, because the antichrist is more than a person, and people looking for a person that can fall into it, because it's not a person, it's a system. Now, I agree in the book of Revelation that John is referring to a system and a person, but where do you get that? Well, so we have Caesar would declared himself as God, and Nero, you know. So most biblical scholars believe that he was referring to Nero, but he's doing it in political cartoon fashion, where he's not coming out and telling us. So we have to read the clues. But anyway, um, generation after generation has had the spirit of Antichrist enter, antichrist or instead of Christ. And so that's why so many generations think this is it. This is it. It's got to be it. It's got to be it. Got to be that. Uh, but the clue is with the book of Revelation is it works in every generation. Every time the spirit of Antichrist comes, Jesus will come on and destroy or take care of or it'll disappear. And then, but that doesn't mean it leaves the world because John wrote the spirit of Antichrist is already in the world, and it's a theology. It's a system of thinking of who is Jesus and where, and it's where you place him in your life. So we have the spirit of Antichrist in churches everywhere today because Christianity will not give him the highest place. They give him a place, and good for that. I'm glad for that. But it's not the highest place. You can go church after church where you don't serve, you don't sacrifice, you don't place him first and do the kingdom of God first. You put him on the calendar: Sundays church, Mondays soccer, um, Tuesdays tacos, whatever, and it's very balanced. And the people that go to church are probably nicer people, but the problem is we have a cleaner, as you may have heard me say, we have a cleaner carnality, not spirituality. There's a difference. To clean up your carnality is probably a good idea, but and your worldliness is a good idea. Excuse me, and you should do that. But that's not Christianity, and it's not being spiritual. Cleaning up your carnality to where you're a better person, more honest, more loving, more caring. Okay, that's great. That's good for everybody. But that's not being spiritual. And that's what we've made it. We've made that a cleaner carnality as being spiritual, as opposed to really walking in the spirit. And you'll not gratify the lust of the flesh. And so, um, the book of Revelation was written for them. Does it have anything in it for us today? Absolutely. Absolutely, because that's where people learn when they said, you know, uh, Jesus the same yesterday, today, and forever, right? So whatever he didn't like then, he doesn't like now. Whatever he stomped out then, he'll stomp out now. Yeah, so it can be applicable, but to make it where, and the number 666, and everybody's worried about getting it as though it's it's like it's something you scan at Walmart. You get this barcode or something. Uh, I remember when got my first credit card. Um, Kathy and I hadn't been married long, but we hadn't been Christians very long. It was after we became Christians, and we got our first credit card, and we got it because we were going to Mexico, and we were going to minister in Mexico, and you kind of needed a credit card, and so we had never had one. As soon as I got one, though, there were those all well-meaning, loving Christians that said, "You got a credit card? Look at it. You now have the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast is credit cards." And of course, I didn't pay any attention, used it anyway. And if you have one, only let it represent money that you have. Don't let it represent money you don't have. Then you'll fall into the system and you're working for the system at whatever percentage interest rate it is. But it's a great convenience, but you got to pay it off every month. Don't spend money you don't have. You live in the money you have, and then you can use a credit card as a convenience, but not as a crutch or not to spend money you don't have. And a lot of people learn their lesson from that and realize that that's not a good way to live, but you can have one. Okay. And so, anyway, back to that. The end is not yet, and so there. Just like I said last week, it's going to go on. I'm looking more um, at, and I don't have the answer to this, and you don't have to have all the answers right now, but I'm looking more to Israel for the end because Israel was at the beginning, and then Israel has promises already out there about it that the blessings of God and the promises of God are irrevocable. But and it seems like the chapter needs to be completed. What will exactly happen, I don't know, but I look to that, um, and I look to what's going on in Middle East right now with the war as possibly a transition to something else, um, to the next level. because the war's not good. I'm not saying there's nothing good about war when people are dying, but even the Holocaust was a transition to the nation of Israel. Horrible as it was, unbelievably horrible as it was, through sympathy, Israel was born with the United Nations. In a day, they voted. Unfortunately, today, anti-Semitism is at an all-time high in my lifetime. I didn't even know it existed this level, and I look more towards that to see what's happening, because there's promises. Like, I don't feel like there's promises hanging out there for me. Um, Jesus, he died, he rose again, he's alive. We're filled with the Holy Spirit. Now we're given the mission to be the light of the world and evangelize and preach the God, all that stuff. So it's pretty well like he's told me what to do, and I'm not looking for something hanging out there. But for Israel, like, it's still them to turn and have a spiritual revival in Israel, I believe, is the ideal thing, and a game changer for where we are in time. But it doesn't matter, because I'm not going to do anything different. I'm going to do what I'm doing. So anyway, I didn't fall for all of it. I did listen to it after a while. I got tired of listening to it. I said, I'll be glad when this day's over, because it was just too much. But life goes on, and it will go on. And I'd just like to focus, before we end today, on the return of Jesus and the resurrection of the dead, because that's the beauty and power of completing this story of humanity that was created in the image of God. So think that way. Don't think of a secret one, because when he comes back, we're going people that don't, the world is going to see it. All right. But a secret one, where secretly people go and maybe they don't even know they were left behind. It doesn't fit very well the pattern, and it's not a historical Christian doctrine anyway. So there's much more to say about that, but one thing we know: the eclipse, it came and it went, and the end is not yet. To serve another day, we get to serve Jesus Christ. So check out some things. I saw the book. I don't think it's on the website yet. Maybe we ought to get it. I saw in my book, Hope Heals. It's sitting over there. That's a really good one, because a lot of people feel guilty, like, I must have sinned, and that's why I have this terrible disease. And that'll help you get rid of that. So maybe we'll get that book on there. There's other books, so you need to think about a donation to Steve Gray Ministries, and we'll just continue on in this battle, and bring to